All right, so here we are. This is our final recorded session for the mod DES-244. And what I'm going to be doing today is a little bit of a review, and then I'm just going to finish up a couple of things that I was working on last night that I wasn't able to complete. So we're going to do that. Let me start off first, though, by talking a little bit about the prompt, the final prompt. This is the assessment. The assignment is what we worked on last night. This is the assessment. And we did a little bit of the assessment last night. We did a little bit of the assignment last night. We're going to work a little bit more on the assessment and the assignment tonight, and that should finish us up. So getting the final approval, getting the final approved packaging and label design ready for production is the next step of the design process. And the designer is responsible for preparing the final production files. So the reason that I want to talk about this is because there are specific things that you need to do in order to prepare files for final production. I mean, it's not just as simple as creating an Illustrator file or creating an Adobe InDesign file for production. There are a number of things that you have to take into consideration. The fact that your size has to be properly you have to create the proper size. You have to have the elements created properly. You have to have the correct final file format. You have to have it in the correct color mode. The artwork has to be in a form that's recognizable by the printer, which means that if you're bringing images in, we talked about this a little last night, they need to be in some sort of a file format that the printer can deal with. If the file is coming in from Adobe Illustrator, which it is in our particular case with this particular set of projects, then the artwork either needs to be a PDF file format, or it needs to be an EPS file format, encapsulated PostScript. Those are the two most accessible file formats. The final assignment, which will be your box, will be submitted as a PDF along with an Adobe Illustrator file that I will be able to go in and check. Although I could theoretically check the PDF as well, because the PDF, if done correctly, gives me access to it, just as if it were an Adobe Illustrator file. The other thing that we want to do is we also want to make sure that we create a piece of art that we can put up online into Behance. So there's a few things that we need to get ready and do tonight, and that's basically what we're going to be focusing on for the next couple of hours, okay? So all visual elements must be prepared properly, as I said, to ensure successful printing of your product packaging and label. For this assignment, you will prepare the final package and label artwork for printing. As I said, we worked a little bit on this last night. We're going to do a little bit of a review tonight on it, and we're going to complete that tonight. Final artwork includes all information required to accurately print, fold, and assemble the package. In the case of the labeling, the only thing that we're going to need for that is the crop marks, because there's no fold involved in it. It's going to be a label that's going to be cropped to a certain size, and then it's going to be glued to a bottle. That's really how that works. So you only need crop marks on that, and we talked about that last night, and we'll take another look at that shortly. As far as the actual package itself is concerned, it's very important that we made the package to scale, to size, the proper size, and that we included the three different things that we need. We needed the die line, we needed the bleed line, and we needed the fold. Now, none of those three elements print. They're basically guides. They're information required to actually print the actual box, okay? It's very important that you understand exactly what they are. The die line is what's used to cut the box out of the larger piece of paper. The bleed line is where you bring your colors to, so that you are guaranteed any kind of color that's going to go to the die line and is going to cut to the edge of the actual final piece, goes beyond, the color goes beyond that, so that it will be cleanly cut to the box shape, and you won't get little white areas where you've not brought your bleed out. And then finally, the folds are basically just there to indicate to the printer the scoring that takes place on the box when they assemble it. Okay, so again, very important to just understand what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. Use Adobe Acrobat Pro DC to combine final package and label art into a single PDF. Okay, so what they want you to do is they want you to provide one single Adobe PDF, which is not hard to do. It's just a matter of creating individual PDFs for your pieces, bringing them into Acrobat Pro DC, and combine them into one final file. Okay. Adobe Acrobat Pro DC to combine final package and label designs into a single PDF. That's correct. Yeah. So we're going to do that. I'll show you how to do that. It's not a problem. So specifications that will be looked at and graded on, all images and vector files in CMYK. I did go over a little bit of that last night. I'm going to review a little bit of that today so that you have absolutely no problem understanding it. All image resolution at 300 pixels per inch placed between 80 and 120%. So basically what that's saying is the printing requirements are for images at 300 pixels per inch. And I'm going to show you in the label how you can go ahead and do that to make sure that you have that. All cut lines and fold lines are appropriately drawn per industry standards. So in other words, you need to have the proper cut line and fold line indicated. Okay, which if you follow my guide that I did in the recorded sessions, you should have no trouble producing it because I did them appropriately according to industry standards. The die line set to overprint all artwork. All bleeds properly separated to allow for any gluing flaps or tuck flaps. So in other words, there is actually only one gluing flap. And that gluing flap, what you need to do is make sure that there is no background color on that gluing flap, because the background color is a oil-based print or an oil-based ink, more than likely, and it would not work very well with the glue. Most of the glue would have trouble with that oil base. So you generally don't put any printing material where you're going to be gluing. The tuck flaps, on the other hand, are different. The tuck flaps are hidden when opened, and it doesn't really matter whether there's print on them or not. You do want to run the print, at least if you're not going to put the color all over the tuck flaps, you should run it a little bit over at least. But it doesn't matter if you run it completely over them. It's not going to hurt at all. The required weights, UPC code nutritional facts are placed in size per government requirements. And again, we talked about this and I did this, and you have to make sure that all this information is showing on your piece. All right, so that gives you a general idea of what we need to accomplish. And as we go through the evening, I'm going to go back to this, and I'm just going to refer back to this. So the submission requirements, if you created your package or label in InDesign, package those files and zip into one zip file, which I did last night. So we actually don't really need to go over that again because I did it last night, and that's how you are going to want to do that. If you created your package or label in Illustrator, package those files and zip into one zip file. What we're going to do with our package is it was created in Adobe Illustrator, and what we're going to do is we are going to package that, and we are going to include that in a package with the label package that we did in InDesign. So you're going to have a package with your file in it from the InDesign project, which is our label, and then you're going to have an Adobe Illustrator file that's been packaged, and we're going to zip it all into one file for your final submission. And again, I'll get to that before the end of the night, so you'll see how that's supposed to be done. But it's really not that difficult. It's really just a matter of creating an overall file, which will be your final submission, and making sure that all the files that we worked on are properly packaged in the final submission. All right. Name your file DES-244. I'm going to write this down, DES-244, and then final and then I'm going to Bill Sweeney. Okay, and notice that it says zip this. So basically what you're going to do is after you create your folder that has all of your files in it, you're going to zip that file. Name it DES-244 assignment 4 or final assignment, whatever you like, and then your first and last name, zip it, and then you're going to submit it. Create one PDF for both your package and label. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine a PDF of your package and the label as well. Submit the zip and the native documents, assets, and PDF for grading. That's really all there is to it. It seems like it's an awful lot, but really it's not. It's not a terribly complex thing to do. It's all pretty standard. The kind of stuff that you're doing here is largely the same sort of thing that you have been doing in other graphic design courses through your time in the school. I mean, there's nothing different here. Maybe the only thing different is the conversion. Let's go back up a little bit. The only thing that might be a little bit different to you is to be sure that all of your images and vector files are in CMYK. I'm not sure whether you've done that before or not. All image resolutions at 300 pixels per inch. Okay, I mean, these are the only two things that would seem a little foreign perhaps to you, and you possibly might have already done this, so you probably know it, but I'm going to run through it anyway. All cut lines and folds are appropriately drawn. That was explained basically through the course, and you shouldn't have any problems with it at this point. So yeah, so that's really what it is. And of course, it makes sense that if you have required information, you need to put that required information in. And we covered that when we were, working on this through the course of the last 3 weeks. All right. All right. So basically, that's it in a nutshell, all right? And again, I'm going to keep this open so that if we have to, we can refer back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into first the Illustrator. Okay, so let's start off by taking a look at our label. Now, there's a couple of things that I just want to go over with you real quickly, all right? And that is that, get rid of that. Well, that is that we have several colors here. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure, and we've used these colors in here, okay? So we want to make sure that the colors that we have in here are CMYK or process colors. Now, this says RGB, so it can be deceptive when you look at this. But if you double click on this, you'll see when it comes up, it'll show you the color type is process color. It's very important that you understand this, process color. And here, the other choice is spot color. We do not want spot color. We want to make sure it's process color. So if when this comes up, the color type reads process color, okay, you know you're in good shape, all right? So I'm just going to hit cancel because I don't have to change it because it's showing me process color. Ignore the fact that this is in RGB. Or if you want, you could just go Wild Bill Yellow. Okay, Wild Bill Yellow, and hit OK. And now when I roll over that, you see instead of it showing that color, it's Wild Bill Yellow. That also gives you some inclination that you've made that change. So here I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to call this Wild Bill. And this will be brown. Yeah, B-R-O-W-N. Wild Bill, B-R-O-W-N. Okay, and again, what I'm looking for is this, process color. So really, that's all I'm looking for is that this is showing me process color. So I've changed it to Wild Bill Brown, okay? And now I'm going to do the same with this color, double click on it, and this is now going to be process color. I'm going to call this Wild Bill Red. Okay, Wild Bill Red, and hit OK. Now, this is optional. I'm not saying you absolutely have to do this. It's just that when you look at this, and when you look at this, it's kind of a reminder that you've done this. And you know that if you click on this thing, you're going to come in here and you're going to see its process color because you actually changed the name up here yourself, okay? And so you know you've been here and you know you've done that. So this basically is okay. And I've got this thing sized properly. That was the first thing that I did. This is a very important point, is that that label right there is sized properly. And how I did that sizing was I actually went into my refrigerator, and I have several bottles of hot sauce. I have a number of them. And what I did was I literally measured the width and the height of one of the labels from, I actually did it to several of them, and I chose a size that's appropriate, at least in my mind, to what I'm going to be creating for the label for my project, okay? So once I did that, I created a document. Now, I just want to go back and show you how to go about and create this document correctly, all right? So I'm going to start off by selecting this, and I'm going to go Edit Copy. Now I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to go New, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I want to create a new document. Now I want to make sure that I choose Print. Here's my print, okay? So I want to make sure that I go up here and I choose Print. Then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to change it from points to inches, all right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to recreate the document, and then I'm going to paste the art into the document, and I'm going to then create a final correct file so that you see exactly how to do it, because there are certain things that they're asking you to do. Like if you look in the advanced options here, okay, the color mode has to be in CMYK. The raster effects have to be 300 pixels per inch. So these are important things, and you can get these settings right here when you create your file. So I'm going to create that file just so that I can basically be sure that I have what I'm looking for. Okay, so let me go back up here and let me go to my width, all right? And I happen to know, because I wrote it down, my width of my label is 7.0723 inches wide. And my height is going to be 6.112. 6.112, 123, 612. I think I got one too many in there. 123, 123. Yeah. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my bleed. All right. I'm not going to put a bleed in here because I've included my bleed in here. So I don't need a bleed in this thing. I just want to make sure that my color is CMYK and I have it set to raster effect high. Those are the important things. Now, if I didn't include bleed in here, I would put a bleed in here of 0.125 inch all the way around. But since this is a piece of art where I've already included my bleed, okay, I've actually sized this to include the bleed, I'm not going to add the bleed to it because that would just make me need a larger space, which I absolutely don't need, okay? So I hope I'm not confusing you. And there's only one artboard necessary, and the orientation that I have here is vertical or portrait. Okay. So the important thing is that you have your size correct in inches. One artboard, because that's all we're needing here. Orientation, bleed if you haven't included it in the overall size, which I did. And then of course your color mode, CMYK, because this is actually what we need to do here, and high, 300 pixels per inch, because that's what's required for this project to be properly prepared to print. I'm going to hit create, and now I get my document. Now I went into my label here and I copied this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go edit, paste in place. And look, it comes in, and it's actually a little bit off space. I have to just adjust it slightly. But as you can see, the size is right on the money. Look, right on the money. See that? Perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this to fit perfectly. Now, if we go over to here, okay, you can see that since this is a new document, all of these colors appear. And all these colors are confusing me because, see, I have these three colors here that I'm looking for, all right? And I want to make sure that I keep those three colors, but I get rid of all the rest of it. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to make sure, I'm just going to create a rectangular shape, and I'm going to apply my colors to it, and then I'm going to duplicate it twice. and I'm going to apply my colors to it. All right? This is just a precaution to make sure that none of my colors go away. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose select all unused. And then I'm going to click the garbage can to delete everything that I'm not using. And I'm going to hit yes. And you see what happens. Everything but the ones that I am currently using in here have been deleted. And this thing here is an extra, so I can delete that as well. All right? And now I can throw these away because I don't need them anymore. Now I have my label art ready to go. This is a piece of art now that is completely done and ready to go. And I am going to be saving this as I did last night. I already did this last night, so I probably will only save it one time to show you. But I did this last night. I saved it as both a PDF and as an EPS, which I'm then using. I'm going to be using this in my InDesign file to create my final work. Okay, but again, what's important for you to understand is that basically everything in here, all right, see there's that color. This guy here has a combination of colors, but if I click on, let me get my group selection tool, and you can see that if I come through with my group selection tool and I click some colors, okay, now I got that color right there, which seems to be a color I don't have, I haven't got included in here. So what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll create a new swatch, and see it's in CMYK process color, which is exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm going to hit OK. All right, and now I've added that color in there. So you can come around and you can, if you want, you can sample color any of these colors that you want to add to this. You can do this. New swatch, CMYK process color. You can add that color. Hit OK. All right. You can go if you want. Let me edit undo this. Edit undo new swatch and edit undo eyedropper. Yeah, because I don't want to have that selected when I sample this. I just want to sample that. All right. There we go. See, and there it shows up that little bit of orange. Now I can come in here and I can click on new swatch. And since I'm working in CMYK, process color, CMYK, hit OK. Now I've added that color. So I can come through if I want, and I can do this with every single color. Any color that's in here that I want to add to this, I can. And they will all be CMYK because this is a CMYK file. So it's very important that you understand this, all right? You don't really need to do all these colors right now because we're going to export this, and they probably, at this point, are all in CMYK, all right, as you can see, because they are in CMYK. Each time I click on one of these and go in and check it, it's already set up in CMYK. But it's just important for you to understand that, all right? So now I'm going to come in here. This is my artwork is sized exactly the way I want it to be. It's sized exactly the way I want it to be. All of its graphic elements are in position the way I want them to be. And all of my required elements, like the spicy good built, but it's not enough, this romance copy, this nutritional facts, the ingredients, the online information and the manufacturer, and the net weight, which these are all required elements, and also the type of chili being used. Those are required elements. The logo obviously is a required element. This graphic is not. This graphic is not. This graphic is not. They're just things that I put on there to fill the graphic out, to make the graphic look decorative. The Wild Bill Gourmet Hot Sauce is a duplicate. Doesn't necessarily have to be there, but visually I think it helps make the image look good. And these two little guys are also not required, but they help make it look good. So there's a combination of elements that are required and a combination of elements that are used creatively to make a nice looking label. This would be the front section, this would wrap around towards the side, and this would wrap around towards the other side, towards the back. But this would be the front of the actual label, okay? So with this all done and sized the way I want it, I'm simply going to come in here and I'm going to save this. I'll call this my final NAL final label dash art. And so final label art, and I'm going to change it. Let me save it first as a let me save it first as an Adobe Illustrator file. That's the first thing I should do, save it in Adobe Illustrator, okay? And then I'll come in and I'll save it as a PDF. So File, Save As. And this time I'm going to save it as Final Label Art, Adobe PDF, and hit Save. Okay, and now I'm just going to leave Illustrator default, preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. I'm going to leave that alone. And the rest of these embed page thumbnails, I'm just going to leave them alone. I don't need to worry about any of that. I'm more concerned about the basic preset that I'm using, and I'm sticking with the Illustrator default, and I'm preserving Illustrator editing capabilities, which means, technically, all that really means is that the Illustrator default is the setting that we're using, which is, it makes it very similar to a regular old run-of-the-mill Adobe Illustrator file. And with the preserved Illustrator editing capabilities, what it allows me to do as a graphic design instructor is to open it back up into Illustrator and go in and examine what you're doing and see whether everything is correct. So that's why I want those two settings. So I hit Save PDF, and it now has saved that PDF. Okay, so really that is all there is to creating a piece of art that's ready to be used in production. Okay, and it's all been done correct. The colors are correct. The artwork is all correct. We have a file format that we can use in InDesign. So I'm going to quickly go into InDesign, and here is our InDesign piece that we did last night. And just so that you understand, there's really only one piece here, and that is that imported graphic, which in our case, I believe, let me select it. Let me go to Window Info. Go to my info panel, or links panel, I should say, my links panel, and this is the EPS, the hot sauce label EPS. So what I did last night was I didn't incorporate the PDF in, I incorporated the EPS, which, by the way, I would actually do the exact same thing with that I did with the PDF that I just created in Illustrator. I do the exact same thing. The only difference is I'd save it as an EPS, which is just a different file format. And again, I did that last night. So if you want to see how I did that, you can just go back and take a look at what I did last night. Then after I get that in here, I don't have to do anything else to it, but make sure that it fits properly and that there's a bleed all the way around, which there is. We're in good shape right now. None of this text or none of these graphics have to be messed with. This is all just one nice big piece. It's all in one. It's going to print just the way you see it here. It's going to print beautifully. They'll have no trouble with it. The printer should have no trouble with it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go File, Package, come down to Package It, okay? And I'm not going to go through the package process. Let's see what's happening here. Is it freezing on me? Hopefully it isn't. There we go. Okay, I'm not going to go through the packaging process because, frankly, I did that last night. But the most important thing is that I remind you that we're looking at primarily, in this particular case, links and images. And it's telling me that one link is found. And if you look over here, it's got one, it says 0 use RGB color space. When you see 0 use RGB color space and one link is found, what that's telling you is the link that's being found is in CMYK. Because if it said one uses RGB color space, then you would know that you have the wrong color mode, okay? So you would go in and you would fix that. But in this particular case, because we exported it correctly, and I went through the whole process of how to prepare it and send it out correctly, one link is being found and 0 use RGB color space. So that's kind of a backwards way of saying one uses CMYK color space. That's what that really means. And if you look at the second line, which says colors and inks, you can see for process color inks. So that basically is saying the same thing as one link found, 0 use RGB color space, because 4 process color inks are being used in the one image. Okay, so it's really important that you understand what this information is telling you. And as far as the fonts are concerned, because the graphic was a complete graphic and we didn't actually build any fonts into this thing, there are no fonts being used, so you're seeing nothing but 0 when you see fonts being used. Whereas there was one image, so it's telling you one image, and then the inks are for process color inks. So this would be all correct. I'm going to cancel this because we don't need to package it again. I went through this last night. Again, this is just a tiny little bit of review so that, you know, we kind of know some of the things clearly what we're doing. By the way, the links is a very important panel for you, because whenever you run into an error situation with images, you're going to want to go into your links and you're going to want to examine that link problem. By the way, just so that you understand, I'm looking down at the bottom here. You can see a little green dot and you see no errors. When you see no errors down the back here, you know that your InDesign file has no errors and that it's ready for production. If you were to see a red dot and then error, then you would know that you'd have to click in and go and try to figure out what that error is and fix it. But in our particular case, all we did to create this label that we're producing was to create one frame. That's all we did, was we created one frame, and we placed place the artwork into that frame. And after we put it in, all right, we went to the object menu and we went to fitting, and we fit content proportionately. And we end up with this, which is perfect, okay? So really, that's how we created this thing here. And it's important to know that this image is the exact same size as the artwork that I created. And you can tell it is because the artwork literally fits to the bleed, which is what I had my artwork sized to. If you remember what I was just saying, I didn't include a bleed into it because I had sized it so that the bleed was incorporated into the overall background. So really, this thing was ready to simply come right in and bang right up to the bleed line, and very minor adjustment had to be made to it, and you're ready to go. Okay, so there's your label. That's what the label should be looking like. One more thing, and that is, let me go to my week 4. Give me a second here. Let me go to week 4, and let me open this up, and let me come back into Illustrator. Okay, let me find week 4, and let me just go to my final label production, and let me just remind you that when we packaged this, we got a folder called links. And the only thing that was in that links folder was the image that we created in Illustrator, which links into our final piece. And then what we have is we have an InDesign markup document and an InDesign final document. So if the printer wants to open up the InDesign document, all he has to do is double click on this, and it will open up and prepare the file exactly the way it was produced, so that the printer can look at it. Then we have this final label production, which is our Acrobat document, which we're going to use in a little bit. I'm going to double click on that, and when this opens up, you'll see that we created this document with all the printer's marks that are available on it. And that's another very important thing. And I showed you how to do that last night. So we now have a packaged file for our label, and we have an Adobe PDF for our label. We have everything that we need to produce this thing with our printer. Printer should have no trouble with this, and everybody should be happy, and we should end up with a very nice looking label on our bottle. Okay? So there we are. That's my review on that stuff. All right? And that brings me to tonight's work. I'm going to close this because I think we're basically done with it, the final label. I think we're done with this as well. I don't think I need it anymore. Save it, yes. And now we're working on the hot sauce bottle, okay, and we're working on this. All right, so here's the deal. What we're going to do is we have our hot sauce bottle. I also showed you how to do this 2 times, so you should have no trouble building this little bottle right here, because I demonstrated how to do it. And to be totally honest with you, I can't force you to do it, but I truly think that it would be a really good idea for you to do it, because it is something. And I'm looking at this now and I'm wondering, did I miss something here? Let me see my go to window. And let me go to my symbols. Something seems to be missing here. Yeah, something is missing. So let me very quickly update this guy. So if you don't mind, there is something missing on here. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go to my appearance panel. And right here, I got 3D revolved. I got 2 of them apparently. Let me see what's going on with this. Okay, Control Z. I got 2 of them. Oh, there we go. This one here I'm going to delete. And I'm going to apply that. Oh, okay, so it isn't missing. It's just I basically accidentally did a second one. We're okay. We're okay. Yeah, that's it. We're good. Okay, so everything's good on this. So really, this is the bottle, and you know it's an option. You don't have to do it, but to be honest with you, it looks so cool. And I mean, what it really comes down to is you want to impress the people that you are, you know, going to be interviewing with, and to be able to show that you know how to do something like this is pretty wild. And I definitely think they'll appreciate it. So my feeling is that you should really try to do this. I think I did it for you twice. I think my steps were clearly enough, easy enough that you should be able to follow it. I'm not going to do it again because I got other things to deal with tonight. But I definitely think that you should give it a shot and see if you can pull it off. I really think that you can pull it off. So, okay, so there's that. We'll come back to this in a little bit because what we're going to do is, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to prepare a final piece where we have the box and we have the bottle side by side. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to bring the bottle over to here. Okay, move the bottle over. Yeah, let me get the bottle over in this general direction here. And then what we're going to do eventually is we're going to bring the box in. All right, but let's get over here now and let's talk a little bit about the box. Now here's our final submission. Here's the important thing. I want to go back very quickly and just talk about, I want to talk about very briefly the package. Again, it's kind of important that you understand what's going on here. Okay, so what I have is I have this mock-up stuff over here on its own separate little layer, okay, because that's something that I'm going to be working on tonight shortly. So I'm going to hide that for a minute. The folds. So I have the folds, and it's a little hard to see them, but they're there. You can see them. If I were to zoom in on them, you'd see that the folds are there. But if I hide the fold layer, you can see that they go away. See, they're gone. And if I bring them back, there's the folds. They come back. So the folds need to be on their own little layer, okay? And the bleeds, which is the red line, that needs to be on its own little layer, okay? And now, just so that you understand, I don't want to confuse you. This is set up to show this as a final mock-up, okay? So you are not seeing the artwork go to the bleed line. You are seeing it go to the actual die line because it's a mock-up. I'm presenting this as a mock-up, and I'll explain that a little more carefully in a minute. But there's your bleed, okay? And here is your die line, all right? You can actually see only the white flap over here, the die line, because the mock-up is hiding the rest of the die line. But you can see the die line a little bit right there, and as I go back and forth, shutting it off and bringing it out, you can see it. And this goes to what I was telling you before. I actually have my color stopping. This is the glue flap. That's what's showing. This little area is the glue flap. And you can see it's white. And the reason that it's white is because I don't want my color to go over to the actual edge. This has got to be left white because we're applying glue to this. And the glue does not interact well with the printing color. So that's why the color, you'll see it goes a little bit beyond the fold and then it stops. And the rest of this is just left white. Okay? Now, let's go to the graphics and we'll hide the graphics because I have that on its own separate layer. There's the graphics. They're hidden. Now, if I hide the background, okay, all you're seeing is the die line because that's the only layer that I'm showing. Now, if I come back in and I show the bleed, there's your bleed. And if I come back in and show you the folds, there's your folds. This is the way your artwork should be prepared for submission so that me as the instructor, I can come in here and I can manipulate these layers and I can see all this information. This is the actual production phase of this. The important elements for this from a production standpoint point are showing. The die line is showing, right? The bleed line is showing, and the folds are showing. Okay. Then for presentation purposes, let me hide the bleed line. For presentation purposes, there's a graphic layer, and there's your little graphics. All your graphics are showing on the graphic layer, and you also have a background layer. So now you can see where you intend your colors to be, and all the graphics where they're supposed to be. Okay, so it's really important that you understand that this is the correct way that your submission should be set up. It's not that difficult to do. This is the front, these are the sides, this is the back, and that's the top. And the top should point, the graphics you'll notice are deliberately upside down. The reason they're upside down is they should be pointing in the direction of the front. And since this thing folds up, it unfolds up, okay, it should be facing in the direction of the front, which is right over here. So this is the correct way the overall graphic should lay out on your package. The back is over here. This is a side. That's the front. That's the side. And that's the top. And the top should be facing backwards from the back, facing forwards to the front. That's how all of that should be set up. And there are your layers. Background, graphics, die line, bleed, folds, and now we go back to our mock-up layers. All right, so what we did last night was we began the process of preparing these mock-ups. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually create another layer. I'm going to call this mock-up layer 1. Let me see if I can get it. Mock-up layer 1. Layer dash 1, and this is going to be mockup dash layer dash 2. So now I have 2 mockup layers. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to select all of this material right there, and I'm going to move that up to mockup layer 2, and then I'm going to hide that. Well, this one right here, that also really should go up to mockup layer 2 as well. And then I'm going to hide mockup layer 2. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is because the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work with this particular method of creating my mockup. This is the method that I find the most fun. It isn't that difficult, believe it or not. I started doing this last night. All right, so all these layers, the graphics layer and the mockup layer 2 layer, I'm going to hide, or lock, I should say. And I'm going to make sure that I'm on the mockup layer 1 layer. That's the one that I want highlighted. And then I want to come in here very quickly, and I want to bring my symbols. Here's my symbols right there. Let me actually put my symbols right there. Okay. There's my symbols. Now, I just want to make sure I explain a couple of things to you before I go into redoing this. The important thing for you to understand is I created, let me go back to my layers. I created, let's go to mockup. I created, let me unlock it for a second. I created this shape right here. Bring it down. Bring it down. There we go. Now I can hide it. Okay, so I created this shape right here. The reason I created this shape right here was because what I was looking to do is I was looking to create the basic shape for my box. And I was going to do this using the 3D effects right here. 3D revolve, okay? Or actually, I'm sorry, 3D extrude and bevel. But let me come in here and let me go to my appearance panel and let me click on this, okay? So that you could actually see, I'm going to click on 3D extrude and bevel, and I'm going to hit preview. Okay. Now, if you take a look at this, the position that I used is off axis front. I made an extrude depth, okay? Extrude depth of 210 pixels, okay? And then what I did was I gave it a perspective of 32 degrees. 32 degrees. I'm going to hit cancel for a second. And I end up with something that looks like this. So let me just show you again. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to the Effect menu, 3D, Extrude and Bevel. And then I'm going to move this over here, and I'm choosing off-axis front. Now, there are different ways that I could do this, but I tend to like the off-axis front because it's a nice three-dimensional look. I'm going to hit preview, and I get this, which is, if I hit OK, which is completely different than this. Can you see the major difference between the two? So what I need to do is I need to work on this one. Let me bring it over closer. I need to work on this one so that this one ends up looking just like this. So I want to just make sure that you're clear on how I did this. So with this selected, and I'm in the appearance panel, this is a very important point. When you're working on these 3D mock-ups like this, whenever you have this thing started like I've done, you want to reselect this thing and go back into Extrude and Bevel through the appearance panel, which you find up in the Windows menu right here, appearance right there, the appearance panel. So that's where you find the appearance panel. And in the appearance panel, there's the 3D Extrude and Bevel filter on that shape. If I deselect this and click this shape, I get the same thing, only it's for this shape right here. And if I double click on this, it'll take me into the settings that I used for this. So I'm going to click on this one, double click on 3D Extrude and Bevel. It brings me back in here. I have to hit preview to preview this. So I click preview. Then I'm going to go into my extrude depth. And I actually last night fooled around with this a little bit to get the setting that I want, which is 210 pixels. So I'm just going to type in 210 point. Okay, then I'm going to come up and I'm going to click in perspective, and as you can see, it basically gave me the proper extrude depth. It looks like pretty much a square. Now, I added perspective to this, and as I told you, the perspective was 32. So I'm simply going to type in 32, then I'll come back here and click, and as you can see, when I hit OK, it looks exactly like that one right there. And that, to me, represents a pretty good-looking box. I mean, if you were going to make a mock-up of a box, that right away makes a really good box. I think you're in good shape with this, okay? So now I'm going to delete this because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to use this box. So that's the step number one. You first go in there and you create your basic box, which is what we've done. Now what I'm going to do is, and this is another important thing, let me just quickly go over this quickly for you. In order to put graphics on this box, I have to create symbols from the artwork that I want to go on the box. So that would be the back. There's the back, okay? And how I did that was like this. I created see that frame right there? That frame is the exact same size as that frame right there, except that it has no fill and no stroke on it. It's actually colorless. It's just a frame. Okay? See it? It has no fill and it has no stroke. The reason that I put that shape around all these elements is so that I would have a boundary to size this thing to fit here properly. So that's why I did that. And I did the same thing. Right, let's go back out. I did the same thing, and I'm going to delete this, okay? I did the same thing for the front panel, okay? Exact same thing where I double-click on it. And now I can come in here, and I can show you I did the same thing. I created a fill and a stroke of none on a frame, which basically goes around all of my elements so that I know exactly where they're going to sit properly on the front panel of my mock-up, okay? So I did that to all of these. Let me delete that again, Control-Z, and let me go back out and delete that. That's what I want to do, delete that. That's an instance. These are the symbols in here, and this is an instance. Let me go to the side and grab the side out. That's an instance. You can tell it's an instance because it's got that little plus mark in the middle of it. I'll drag out one more so that you can see it. That's also an instance. You can see the little plus mark in the middle of it. When I click on this, you see the little plus mark. Those are instances of symbols. So the actual artwork is in here as symbols. The instances, I've dragged out copies, and I can drag as many of these out as I want. I can bring out dozens of them, okay? I don't need any of them in this particular case because I'm going to be using them on my mock-up. So I'm going to delete all this stuff. Okay, so in my symbols panel, I have my side, and you notice that when I drag these in here, I called it side, front, back, and top. And I did all this last night, so you should be able to remember how I did this. Basically what I did, all right, if you want to see me do this, what I did basically was I came in here and I created a piece of art, just a rectangular shape that's the size of my panel, okay? And then I brought my piece of art over here like that. And as you can see, it has no fill and no stroke on it. I'm going to put a default black and white on it, and I'm going to remove the fill so that you can see what I got. So there it is. That now just has a black stroke on it. Oops, didn't want to do that. Oh, I got a black stroke on this thing, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my artwork here, and I guess my layers are locked, so I have to unlock my layer. Yeah, the graphics layer. Click on that. Edit copy, edit paste. Edit paste. What's the matter here? What's the matter here? What's the matter here? Why is it not? Maybe I didn't get it copied. Edit copy, edit paste. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to move it into position, okay? Get it into position on my shape. So something like that. So there you have it. That is the position. That's the actual side panel. And the only thing I have to do is I have to take that right there and remove that color like that. And now I have the same thing as I have, all right? I have the same thing here in my symbols panel. When I take this side and drag that side out, see, it looks exactly the same. That's exactly how I created it. I selected all of this and I dragged and dropped it in, and I created that symbol right there, which is this guy right there. So I'm not going to do it again because I already did it. I'm just trying to show you how I did it, okay? So now I can get rid of all this. I can delete all of it, okay? Hopefully now you know how to do that. I'm going to go back in real quickly and get rid of this color. Let me go back in real quickly to my layers panel, and let me lock my graphics layer again because we're working on the mock-up layer. All right, and I'm going to also lock that secondary mock-up layer. All right, so now we're kind of ready to go here. I'm going to click on my 3D mock-up. I'm going to come into my appearance panel, and I'm going to click again on the extrude and bevel effect, and I'm going to move this over here so that I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to hit preview. Preview applies the effect. So now we see our 3D box. What we want to do now is we want to go into the area called Map Art. So I click on Map Art, and I get this little window here, which I'm going to try to move over here. And I have surfaces. This is the important thing to understand. There's surfaces. This is the front surface. You can tell it's the front surface because it's the surface facing us right here. So that's the front surface. There are 6 surfaces, so that means that there's a top and a bottom, 2 sides, a front and a back, 6 surfaces. Now watch what happens when I just go from my next surface, go to my next surface. There it's 2, it's the back, and there is the, I guess the right side you'd call it, and then here is the bottom, there is the left side, and there is the top. So it's showing you with that little red highlight which is each of these surfaces. So that's a very important thing for you to understand. That's the first thing, because what we have to do is we have to figure out which surface we're working on so that we can apply the graphics to the surface. So now I want to go back to the first one. I'm going to go back to 1. There, 1. Now 1 should be the front surface. So I also have symbols up here. Remember, I got these symbols that I created. Now if I come in here and I click, I'm going to come over and I'm going to choose the side that I want to apply to that side right there. So I'm calling this the front side, so I want the front graphic. Okay, and as you can see, the front graphic just comes right in perfectly. Okay, there's your front graphic. Now, if I click on scale to fit, it distorts it. So I don't want to do that. Let me go back up here and let me remove it. All right, and let me try it again. All right, let me come in and let's see if I can place it again. Front, there. And that front comes in, and to be honest with you, that front looks great. I'm not even going to mess with it. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to deselect this so that you can see what's going on. And I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit on this so that we can really get a good look at this, because this is very cool. So there you have the very beginning of my 3D box. This is cool, and this is great, and you're going to love this. So what I'm going to do is go back in, and I'm going to select this, and now I'm going to continue building this. Let me bring this way over here so I have room for my panels. I'm going to go back into my appearance panel. It's very important that you understand, if I want to continue editing my box, I need to go in to the appearance panel, select it, go into the appearance panel, and click on the, see where it says click to edit effect. Very important. This is how you do it. You do not want to go up to the effect menu, and you do not want to reapply extrude bevel and apply extrude and bevel or extrude and bevel. You don't want to touch them again. You want to choose it here, okay? And when it opens it up, automatically what will happen, and I have a problem, hit cancel. I have a problem. This thing's in the way, so let me move this over so that it's not in the way of that. All right, now let's try it. Okay, all right, and now I'm going to hit preview, okay, and now it's put that back in order. Let's go into map art. Okay, so we have our first surface graphics applied to this. It's really just that simple. The important thing is just preparing the artwork correctly, and that is basically creating just a regular old shape with the color on it, and then going in to the regular panel. Let me hit cancel, go into the regular panel and make sure that you set the depth to 210 pixels. The reason I'm telling you these numbers specifically is because you're making basically the same box as I am. So these are the numbers that I used. They're the numbers probably that you'll use, okay? So I'm using off-axis front, perspective 32, and extrude depth 210. Go to map art. And now I'm going to go on to my next surface. So let's see what my next surface is. So my next surface is the back. So actually, the back isn't showing right now. So I could apply the back to this, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to move on to the next surface, which is my left side, which isn't showing. So I'm going to continue, and I'm at the bottom, and that's not showing. So I'm going to continue. And now I am on the left-hand side. Now the left-hand side is showing. So what I'm going to want to do here is I'm going to want to apply the graphics to this. So let's go to the side, and let's click on the side. Now the problem that happens here is that the side basically comes in the wrong direction. So what I need to do is I need to adjust the direction of this thing to get it in the proper orientation. There we go. And now I got to move it into position. And there you go. And now if I want, I can actually increase the size of this a little bit. Let me increase the size of the side just a little tiny bit and position it a little bit better. And you can see that we have a pretty good looking side along with our front. Yeah, that looks pretty good, I think. It could probably go down just a hair. Really good. Okay, now there's our front. There's our side, and now I want to put a top on this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue in this direction right here. I'm going to come in here. This is my top. You can tell it's top because the red, see the red highlighting? And I'm going to come in, and I'm going to choose the top. And the top is going to come in. And the top is facing backwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate the top around, if it'll let me do it. Oh, man. There we go. There we go. Rotate the top around. Rotate the top like that. There we go. That's more like it. And then I'm going to adjust it. I have to adjust the size of it a tiny bit because it's a little bit big. And bring it in a little bit that way. And maybe move it down a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. There. And let's see. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Hit OK. And now hit OK. And I'm going to deselect it. And look at that. We actually have, I'm going to close this for a second. We actually have created our first mock-up box. And it looks pretty darn good. Okay? Now, if I want, I can do this. I can copy this and go edit copy. Okay? And go edit paste in place. And I can move this thing over here. Okay? Let me move it over a little bit further. And now I have a duplicate of that box. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because I want to show you, I want to create a version of the box that shows the back and the side. So I have the front and the side showing and the back and the side showing. So I'm going to leave this one alone. And this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. I am going to go into my, I actually think in order to do this, I'm going to have to move these over. Let me move them over first. Bring them right about there. Right about there. Okay, let's go to the appearance panel. And let me just select this one. I'm going to leave this one alone. This is going to be my front. This is going to be my back. Okay, I'm going to come in here, extrude and bevel, and I'm going to preview it. I'm going to go to map art. This is very simple. All I need to do is I need to change this panel since the sides both look the same. What I need to do is I need to change the back or the front to the back. So I'm going, in this case here, I'm just going to use this side. I'm going to change it from the front to the back. And as you can see, the back comes in beautifully. Now I'm going to go to my next, let me go to my next panel, which is 2. Okay. And it's the back. I go to my 3rd panel, the 4th panel, the 5th panel. There you go. And all I want to do is I want to carefully rotate this around so that it's pointing in the opposite direction. It's pointing towards the front. Okay? And now that is pointing in the proper direction. And I got to do the same thing with the top. So let me continue going to the top. And there's 6. All I got to do is rotate this, if I can get it to let me do it. There we go. Rotate it around until it's facing the opposite direction. All right? And then just move it. I'm going to move it forward a little bit like this. Move it up about like that. Too much. Let me bring it back some. A little bit more. That'll do. And I'm going to hit OK. And hit OK. And now what I have, look at that. I have actually got a side-by-side presentation of the 4 sides of my box. I got my front, and my front is pointing, my top is pointing in the direction of the front, and I got a side, and then I have the back showing with this piece of art, which is the side piece of art pointing in the direction of the front, which is the way it should be pointing, and I've changed the direction of this so that it's facing the front. That's what those boxes should look like, okay? So this is my first method for creating my box. Now I'm going to copy these. Let's go edit copy. I'm going to come into my hot sauce bottle and I'm going to bring this over here. Let me select this whole thing. All right, and let me bring this over here. All right, and let me go edit paste. And my box will come in, hopefully. There's my boxes. And I'm going to move my boxes over here, okay? Then the only thing I need to do is I need to select this guy right here, and I have to reduce the size of this, and I think I'm going to try to reduce it down to about, what is that, 90%? Let's try making it 80%. 80. Let's preview it and see. That's probably okay. I think that'll be, I think let's make it 75. Let's try 75. 75. And then hit, there we go. Move it over. I actually messed this up. I hit copy it, which is not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to have to move this over and delete the other one. I want to get this over here. Okay. That's good. And then I'm going to delete this big one. Delete it. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to compose this. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this and go Object Group. Let me group it. All right. So that's grouped. And this guy now is going to come in here, and I'm going to place him sort of like this. All right, and I'm going to make sure that these things, I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. There, and now my bottle is in front of it, and I'm going to move this one over a little bit so that I can actually get a good look at my bottle. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to move this over just a bit so I can get a good look at my bottle. There we go. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my artboard tool, and I'm going to resize this piece of art, this background. I'm going to resize the background so that the background fits the art a little bit better. And then I'm going to take these three pieces like this, and I'm just going to simply move it up like that, like that. And I'm going to hit File, Save As, and this is going to be hot sauce bottle and dash box dash complete. And I'm going to hit Save. Okay. So now what I have basically is hit OK. This is a really beautiful, look at this. This is a beautiful presentation of your bottle, label applied to a bottle, and your boxes applied, the graphics applied to your boxes. This is a really nice presentation that, you know, again, you're probably going to want to put up on Behance. So to do that, now that I've done this much, I'm going to go File, Save As, or let's see here, File, Export. Let's go to Export. Export As, okay? And it's going to be a JPEG. See that right there, JPEG? So I'm going to export this as a JPEG. I'm going to hit Export. All right, and I'm going to choose the color mode RGB. Now, why am I choosing RGB and not CMYK? The reason that I'm choosing RGB is this is going to be turned into a JPEG. The JPEG is going to be put up on Behance. So I just need this thing to be RGB. Now, the compression method, I'm going to leave alone baseline standard. The resolution, I'm going to choose 72 pixels per inch, okay? And I'm going to hit OK. And it creates a JPEG. It should. And I should be able to go into my week 4, and I should be able to find my JPEG. Let's see where it is. Where are you? Hot sauce box complete JPEG. Double click. There it is. Okay? And it looks pretty good. I probably could make a slightly better one. But let me now go into Photoshop. All right? So I'm going to go into Photoshop real quickly. Go into Photoshop. Open Photoshop up. This will take a second. Open Photoshop up. And then I'm going to open the JPEG into Photoshop, and I'm going to resize it so that I can put it on Behance, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this JPEG's too big to be put up onto Behance. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make it smaller so I can put it up on Behance and show you how you do that. It's very important that you know how to do that, so that if you want to if you're going to go to the effort of putting together this project, which this project, as you can see in my case, looks pretty darn good. This would be something that you would definitely want to put up on Behance, because it will get you work. If you go out and show this to a client and they see that you have the ability to do this level of work, you certainly are going to impress them, and they're going to want to work with you. So it's kind of important that these things you do, and I'm trying to show you as best I can how to do them. It's not that impossible to do. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but it's well worth it because you end up with great stuff. So this will take another minute and open this thing up. I probably should have opened this up in advance, but I didn't really think about it until I was starting to do it, and it occurred to me it's something that we need to do, so that's why I'm doing it, and it hasn't been prepared, so you'll excuse me for that. So let's give it a second. It'll open up, and then I can open up that JPEG, and we can resize it to go up on Behance. And then I'll actually go into Behance and I'll put it up on Behance for you so that you can see how I did that. And then yeah, these programs take a little bit of doing to open up, I guess. There we go. Okay, now, here we go. File. Oops, still processing. Give it a second. File open. And let me go to my desktop. Here we go. Go to desktop. Okay, we're going to go to week 4. Looking for the JPEG. Right there. Open. Okay, there it is. And give it a second. Come on. It's pretty big. I guess it's a pretty big piece of art. Okay, so notice that this thing is in RGB. Okay, so let me go to image size. Let's see what it is. Image size. And what size is this thing? This is the... Okay, so that's really not too bad. I don't really think I even have to change the size on this. I think it's actually pretty good. So let me see in inches. What is it in inches? 7 by 9. So the height is, let me go back to pixels. So we're talking about, come on. Oh, geez, come on. Let's make this 500. 500. There we go. And I'm using bicubic sharper to reduce this. Hit OK. Okay, now I'm going to go File, Save. All right, and I just saved that. And I'm going to leave this set to 12 maximum. Hit OK. Okay, so now I've actually made this just a little bit smaller because I'm a little bit afraid that when I go into Behance, I may run into a problem. Probably won't, but I just did it anyway, made it 500 pixels high. So I'm going to go back into my browser, and I'm going to open up my bookmarks bar, and I'm going to find Behance right here. Behance, Editing, Graphic Design, and Education. So here is my little Behance sign. Let me log in if I can. There we go. Loading Project Editor. Okay, so give it a second. Good. Okay. So this is what Behance looks like. I'm pretty sure that you've done this before. This is not something that you should be completely unaware of. But all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to upload a file. So I'm going to come in here, click on Upload File. I am going to go to my desktop. I'm going to find my week 4. And I'm going to look for my hot sauce bottle box complete JPEG file. Select that and choose Open. And there you have it. Watch, there it is. It's there. Okay. Actually, I don't think I would have had any trouble if I had left it to the original size. It looks like it, could have easily been that size. Then the only other thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add some text to it, and it's going to be final project DES-244 packaging, and it's a mock-ups. They're mock-ups. Mock-ups. Let me put a dash through there. Mock-ups for hot sauce. Hot sauce bottle and packaging. And you know what? Anything else you want to put in there, you can put in there. I'm just going to hit save, and now it's going to save that into my project, which is this basic project that I'm working on. And there it is. And what you can do is you can send a link. Okay, see now here, this is actually put it at the very bottom. I got a bunch of other stuff, and here's another one. There's a wine bottle to show you how I actually did the wine bottle. But anyway, there's the hot sauce packaging that I did. It's in there, and you could do this. And I've got, you can see, I go through here. There's a bunch of things that I worked on. These are all different things that I've worked on, and they're projects. And you know, you'll build a nice Behance portfolio site like this of all your work, and you'll be in great shape. Okay, so there you go. That's basically the assignment. Now, there are a couple of other ways that you can handle putting together this packaging. This is probably your best bet right here. This is the sexiest way to do this. This is really sensational. But there are a couple of other things that you can do. And by the way, I can now close this, and I can close this, and I can go back into Illustrator. I'm done with Photoshop. I'm not going to be doing anything more at Photoshop. All right, so there's your image. Let's go back into here, okay, because we're done with this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my layers, and I'm going to hide that mock-up layer, and I'm going to bring this mock-up layer back out. Okay, so there are a couple of other ways that one can go about doing the same mock-up. So I'm going to get rid of this thing. Let me go, wait a minute. Let me go to my layers and that unlock it, and then we can lock that. So those are all locked. This is unlocked. Okay, so that means that I can get rid of that. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to create a couple of other options here. I want to create a couple of other options. So I'm going to bring this guy over here like this, and I'm going to duplicate this over here, and I'm going to align them up pretty much side by side, line them up like that so that they're lined up perfectly, just like that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, so that's that one, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this one out of the way. Let me let's see, how am I going to do this? Let's go Object, Hide, Selection, yeah, and let me bring this guy over here, and let me bring this guy over here. Okay, so now there's a couple of things that I want to do here, and that is I want to start off by, let me actually move this over just a touch. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to come over here and I want to create a graphic shape that's the same size as that panel right there. Okay, and actually, you know what would be a better way to do it? Let's go Edit, Undo Move, and Edit, Undo Rectangle. Let me just come in here with my group selection tool, all right? And let me click on that, and let me go Edit, Copy, all right? And let me select the whole thing and go Edit, Paste in Front. Oh, did I get it? I did. Now this thing here, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to change it to black, all right? Change it to black. And then I'm going to come into Transparency, Window, Transparency, and I'm going to change it from Normal to Multiply, and I'm going to bring it down to like maybe 10%, really bring it down like maybe, let's make it 25%. That's probably pretty good. Okay, so now I have this, and I believe it's all, yeah, that's basically all together. So I'm going to now bring this over here, and I'm going to position it so that it's like right next to the other panel. Bring it close to the other panel. There, and that's pretty good. I think I probably have to go up one. Let's see. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the beginnings of a box. So my goal here is I'm going to turn this into a rendering, a 3D rendering of the box. This is one way to do it. This is the second way to do it. All right, now this one here involves using selecting this object and going to the object menu and go to, or actually come in here, I'm sorry, go into the free transform tool, okay? And I'm going to click on this and shift, Control Z. Let's see if I can get this shift. There we go. click and drag that slightly down. I'm holding down the Shift key and the Control key, okay? And then I'm going to come down to the bottom, click on that one, and Shift and Control, and I'm going to bring that up a little tiny bit, just like that. Okay, so I'm just actually distorting the shape of that slightly. Okay, I'm going to click on this guy, and I'm going to do the same thing again with the transform tool. I'm going to come up and click the top one, hold the Shift and Control key, and I'm going to drag that top down a little bit, just like that. Maybe a little bit more on the side. Okay, and then I'm going to come up here and click on the bottom and Shift and Control, and I'm going to drag that one up a little bit like that. Okay, and then if I want to get this to even look a little bit better, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to use the free transform tool, and I'm going to distort it in by shrinking it slightly, by giving it a slightly smaller look. And now if you look at that, I have a representation of the same box, only I did it in a simpler way. So there's another way that you can actually, and then it's just a matter of, you know, playing with this until you get this thing to look the way you like it. I'd select it, first of all, I'd select it, and then I'd come in with my free transform tool. See, and actually you get the free transform. Here's a perspective distort and a free distort. So if you click on the perspective distort, you can come in here, hold the Shift key down, and you can now distort that, the top and bottom both at the same time, and you'll get something that looks like that. And then if you want your regular tool, the regular free transform tool, you can take that free transform tool and you can bring it in, and now you've got what looks like a pretty good looking bottle. Do the same thing with this. You can come in here, click on the tool, and use the free distort tool, and then you're going to click on the top where the little top is, hold the Shift key down, and you're going to maybe distort both of those a little bit, and now you've got something that looks like a pretty good box. It's not as good as the other box. If you look at this, I'm going to go Edit Copy, and then I'm going to come to the hot sauce box, and let me just open this artboard back up so I can paste it in here and you can see what we got. Edit, Paste. Okay, so Control Z. Let's see what happened. I didn't get the whole thing. Let me go back in here. See if I can get this. Let's go Edit, Copy. Let's try it. Okay. Edit, Paste. There we go. Bring it over here. And you can see that it's different. This is, I think this is a lot sexier looking than this. But this is another way to do it. And you can see it's a fairly simple way to do this. Okay? So again, it's another option. It's something else that you can do. So I'm going to delete that here and leave this basically alone because I'm not unhappy with what I got here, and I would go with this one probably. This is the one that I would probably go with. I like it. File, save. Okay, so that's the second way that you can actually produce. Let me let this thing re-render. There we go. Okay, and now the third way is this way. This way I think is kind of interesting. I'm going to click on this and move this over here. Let me get this out of the way. Let me move this way over to the right. Get this out of the way. All right, so I got that over there and I got that over there. The other way to do this is by using the perspective tool, the perspective grid tool. Okay, and my perspective grid is way the heck off over here. Why, I don't know. Oh, it's because it's on that board. All right, so let me do this. Let's go edit. Let me go to the view menu and let's go to perspective grid and hide it. Hide the grid. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. This is going to make it a little bit better. I'm going to select these and go edit, copy. Edit, copy. And I'm going to go file, new. And I'm going to just create a new file, whip up a new file real quick because it'll just be easier to do this. Just make it a custom create. This is just a demonstration, so I'm not worried about it too much. Now I'm going to edit, paste. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to actually scale these two things down. So let me go zoom, view, zoom out. There we go. And I'm going to reduce both of these guys. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. Reduce. Hold on. There we go. Bring them in. until they're about like that. There we go. And then I'm going to walk them on. Bring this one in. Bring that one in. Let's go view, fit artboard and window. There we go. Okay, so we're kind of there. There we go. So we got them basically there. All right, now what I want to do is I want to bring the perspective grid in. Okay, so there's your perspective grid. So what I want to do is I want to click on this piece, all right, and I want to perspective grid selection tool. I want to click on this and I want to bring it into my grid, just like that. There. Then I'm going to click on this guy and I'm going to drag him into the perspective grid as well. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do one thing. Let's go Control Z. Okay, and what I need to do is I need to change the surface. I gotta go to the surface. I gotta change it. So I had it on the blue. I'm putting it on the orange. Okay, so now if I click this with the perspective grid tool, click on it, it'll apply it to that surface. And I just bring it over here like this. Okay, and look at that. Isn't that nuts? There we go. And I'm going to go to the view menu and go to perspective grid and then hide the grid. Look at that. Isn't that great? There you have another box that I've created. Okay, and if I select this guy, edit copy, and we go into my hot sauce box here, and if I again, I should have just left this because I forgot I didn't even think I was going to be doing this. Edit paste. There it is. There's my second box, all right? And there it is. So there's another way to do it. So there's actually 3 entirely different ways that you can prepare artwork for a mock-up box. Now, again, based on just the way they look. I mean, you can't deny that these things look by any scope of the imagination. These things look 10 times better than these do. Okay, but I'm not saying you can't use them. They're great ways, but this right here, this is the bomb. This is the one that you definitely want to prepare. So it's totally up to you. But if I were going to be doing this, and if I was going to be presenting this, this is the way I would do it. This is what I would shoot for. Now, so that basically, let me just go File, Save. And actually, before I do that, I should have changed the size of this. You just change the size of the artboard. And I'm going to save this. All right, I'm going to come in here and just for the heck of it, I'm going to save this perspective grid. Let me come in here and let me go View. Let's go to Perspective Grid, Show Grid. There we go. And let me go File, Save. All right, and this is going to be Perspective. Okay, Perspective, and hit Save. There we go. All right, and there we go. And I mean, you could change the grid. I only showed you this way because I didn't want to make it a big thing. I just wanted to show you that you could do this, and it is actually very cool. So there's a perspective grid. We're done with that. All right, so I want to take this guy, and what I want to do is I want to adjust the size of the artboard again, like that. Okay, so we have this right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the View menu, and let's go Fit Artboard and Window. And okay, so I got all this stuff here. This is actually, I think, my other mock-up. So let me get that mock-up, and let me go Edit, Cut. And let me actually go into the File, Open. And let me go to the Perspective Grid real quickly. Where's the Perspective Grid? I should save that as well. There we go. All right. And yeah, and let me go Edit, Paste. There. And that thing is just going to be moved over to here for now. Now let me save it. File, Save. All right. And then close it. Okay, so this stuff here I can delete. And this artboard here I can delete. Okay, so now I'll go View, Fit Artboard and Window. All right, now, so we have our hot sauce box mock-up complete, okay? And it looks really good. So there's part of your project. We have our box layout complete, okay? And if we've done this correct, what we should have is we should have a background layer, okay, background layer. We should have a graphics layer, all right. We should have our die line layer. We should have our bleed, okay, and we should have our folds. And then we have these mock-ups, all right, which we no longer need because I'm going to get rid of them, delete the mock-up layers, because they were only something that I created to show you how to work on this. So what you're really looking for is you're looking for your folds, okay? You're looking for your bleeds, which I'm going to hide because I'm going to put it together so that you could see the visuals. My die line, my graphics, and my background. So there is your final submission, and it should be to the proper size, which it is. So what you're going to do, and right now what we're at the point where we're going to put together all of our elements into a final submission, okay? The final submission. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to go Save As, and I'm going to call this, this is the DES assignment. Let's go Final Assignment. Let me change this, all right? Let me get rid of that, and let me call this Final. F-I-N-A-L, Final Assignment. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to call it a Final Assignment James Gallagher, okay? And it is going to be an Adobe PDF, okay? And I'm going to save it in here, my week 4. Let's see, I'm going to create a new folder. Let me see. Oops, nope, let's see if I can, and let's see. New folder, and let's call this Final, okay, and let me open it. There we go, and save it in there. Okay, so there's that, and hit Save, just the default. Hot sauce bottle complete. File, Save As, and this is going to be hot sauce bottle complete. And I'm going to save that in Final. And that's going to be saved as a PDF. Okay? And hit Save. Okay? So that's that, and that's that. Now, one other thing, save PDF. One other thing that you also need to do. One other thing you also need to do. Give it a second. Okay, one other thing you also need to do is you need to save this file, Save As. You need to save this as an Adobe Illustrator file, also in Final, okay? Also in Final. So you're going to save that as well. And hit OK. All right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look in week 4. There's Final, and we also have, let's see, Final Label Production. There's your Final Label Production. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this and go Edit, Copy. Okay? Then I'm going to go back into week 4, and I'm going to drag the Final Label Production into the Final. All right. And I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Try again. Cancel. Let's see. Paste. Oh, what happened? Copy. Paste. There. Okay. All right. So now I have Final Label Production, and in here are this is the actual InDesign piece. Okay. Go to Final. There is my Final Assignment, which is my box. I'm going to change it to call it Final Box. Okay. Final Box. Final Box. Okay. And Final Label Production, Final Box. Okay. And Hot Sauce and Box Complete. So this is what this looks like. There it is. Let's view it, the whole thing. There it is. Okay, so there's that. One. Come on, you. Okay, and here's the second one, final label production. Come on, open up. Don't be stubborn. God, this is a pain. There we go. And this has got, remember, this has got all of the printer's marks on it because we put the printer's marks on it. And then the final one is a hot sauce and box complete. This will take a second to open too. There we go. Let's view the whole thing. Looks really good, doesn't it? I think it looks really good. Okay, so what we want to do now is, if you go back to the assignment, we close all these because we don't need them open. Okay, we're going to leave Acrobat Pro open for a second, and we're going to go back into the assignment. I'm going to leave this open as well. Go back into the assignment, and let's go back to the assignment real quickly. Log into Canvas and open this up. And let's go down to the assignments. And we'll go down to assignment 4. Preparing final artwork. Let's scroll down. And where it says here, here we go. Okay, you've created your package and or label in InDesign, package those files and zip into a zip file. Okay, you create your package and or label in Illustrator, package those files and zip into one zip file. Okay, create one PDF of your package and label. What they want you to do here is, I don't know where it's telling you this, but submit the zip. Let me see, where does it tell you that? I believe it's probably, where did it tell you that? Oh, use Adobe Acrobat Pro DC to combine final package, label, artwork files into a single PDF. Okay, so that's what we're doing right this second. So let me go back in here, and we have 3 files that are PDFs. 3. We want one complete PDF file. So I'm going to move this over here, bring up the Adobe Acrobat Pro. I'm going to click on Tools. This is actually very simple. I'm going to go to Create PDF. Click on it. Multiple files. Click on Multiple Files. It says Combine Files. No problem. Just click Next. And now I'm going to move this over. You'll see right here, Add Files by clicking the button below or drag and drop them here. So I can click the button, but it's actually easier to just come in here, click, hold the Shift key down and click all 3, and then just drag them in. And look at, there are my 3 pieces. So I have my box first, my label second, my mock-up third. That's exactly the way I want it. I'm going to come up here where it says Combine, and I'm going to click, and it combines them together. And if you look at this, let me view this, okay? If you look here, you'll see there's 3. Look, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. They're all right there. Perfect, okay? Now I'm just going to go, let me move this over here, move this over here. I'm going to save this, all right? Go Save File, Save As. And I'm going to bring it into my, give it a second, bring it into my, let's go to different folder. Let me do it on my desktop. And it's going to be on my desktop so that you could actually see this. And I'm going to call this thing, right now it's going to be called Binder 1. I'm going to hit Save. Okay, hit Yes. I'm replacing a Binder 1 that I already have there, which is okay. All right. And that's done. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to find Binder 1 right here, right there. I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this folder PDFs, PDF, okay? And I'm going to put these PDFs in there. Whoops, didn't get them. Let me get my PDFs and let me put my PDFs in there, PDFs. The reason I'm doing that is so I can take them out, okay? And then what I want to do is I want to just open this up, and I'm going to drag my binder in there. Let me get my binder. Let me drag my binder in there, okay? And then all I'm going to do, oh, let me actually close the binder. I have to close it. Then I can do it. Try again. There we go. Okay, now I'm just going to name this, okay, DES-244, whoops, 244, and then it's final submission, and then James Gallagher. There we have it. Now, I am going to save this. Okay, go back to week 4. And there's my final. And what I'm going to do with this, see? So in here, you have your label production stuff, okay? You have your Adobe Illustrator file of your box, and you have your combined submissions. There's your submissions. There are your submissions. So there's your box, okay? And there is your label. There's your label. And there is your mock-up. Beautiful. Now you're going to come in here and you're going to save this. First of all, you're going to send it to a compressed zip folder, and it's going to compress it and zip it. And then it's going to be DES-244 and call it final packaging James Gallagher. There you go. And now close that. There is your final submission right there. That is what you submit. And again, as I say, when you open this thing up, inside of it is the folder that says final, and you'll have your final submission combined. This is your final submission combined. There is your box art, which I can then open up, okay? And it will open up, and I will actually be able to come in here and take a look at your, you know, your separate elements. I can look at all your separate elements, do whatever I want to do with it. Okay, check it, save it, no. And it's the same thing with this. I can open this up, and I can look at your pieces that you've created. And then, of course, in here is your InDesign and your links, so I can even open this up properly, and I can take a look at this, all right? So there it is. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. You're good to go. That's what you need to do. And hopefully you will get that done. Now, as a final note, what I do want to point out is that if you want some help, I'm available, Blackboard, tomorrow at, or not tomorrow, sorry, Thursday, between 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time. I'm available from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. on Friday Mountain Time, and Saturday from 8 o'clock until 12 o'clock, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. Mountain Time. So again, you know, don't hesitate to come in and let me help you. I mean, I actually built this whole thing for you. You could watch this and do it. But if you need help of any kind, in any way, shape, or form, don't hesitate to come in and I will help you. I want to help you. I'd like to see you pass this course. I don't know why you haven't reached out to me, but you haven't. I really would, you know, be happy to help you. So don't hesitate. Come in and see me. Okay? I guess that's it. Thank you, and good luck.